Hey everybody, my name is Michael and I'm here with episode 7 of the Between the Lines podcast. Unfortunately, I'm without Danny this week. Some personal things going on for him, conflicting schedules, some technical difficulties on Monday, so we couldn't get it done Monday. Some stuff came up today, so today's Wednesday. So he can't make it, but I'm going to continue the show and do this thing solo. Got some great topics to talk about from the Raiders and Chiefs, Giants and Broncos, Miami's troubles. A great Thursday night football game between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and of course the name of the game and the topic of this podcast, the Carolina Panthers against the New York Jets on Sunday. So let's just jump right into it, man. Let's get started with the first topic of the day, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday. Just a dominating win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, some people, this is the biggest debate in the NFL right now. Where does Kansas City fall in the power rankings? You know what I'm saying? Strugglers first few weeks, but they've been dominating the last few weeks. Dominated again on Sunday, 31-0 win against the Raiders and Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. Not really where we thought Geno Smith and Pete Carroll would be right now. Obviously, Pete Carroll's Super Bowl winning coach. A very great mind on the headset. Traded for Geno Smith in the offseason. You try to get a guy in there you're familiar with, obviously with the Seahawks. Seahawks ties there. You try to get a guy in there like that somebody you can trust with your offense. They've had struggles in the past few years with their quarterback situation, from Aiden O'Connell to Gardner Minshew. They've had Derek Carr in there. Just struggles on offense from the quarterback standpoint. Just trying to find stability. You try to bring in a guy that you know very well. You have a former, two-time, I think, 1,000-yard receiver in Jacoby Myers, a young and bright star, and Trey Tucker coming up. You draft Ashton Jeanty in the first round, so you're trying to really build that offense up. Trying to create an identity they really haven't had in the past few years. You got Jackson Powers Johnson up front. You got Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers at tight end, two very good tight ends. But the defense ain't there. But the offense wasn't there either this past week. Patrick Mahomes dominated yet again. I think in some cases he's number one in MVP race. 26 for 35, 286 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, compared to Geno Smith, who went 10 for 16 for only 67 yards. They even put Kenny Pickett in late in the game. He went 2 for 2, 8 yards, and he obviously did fumble the ball. But you just look at the total yard standpoint in this game. Kansas City 434 total yards to Las Vegas, who didn't even have 100. They only finished with 95 total yards of offense. It was just a lopsided game. It was a one-sided game. The Kansas City Chiefs seem to be like the Kansas City Chiefs of past times. Obviously, we saw them get blown out in the Super Bowl this past February, and not something you really thought about seeing. Not something you thought you would see from the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid. You really wouldn't expect that from them. But very impressed with what they've done the last 5 weeks. They're 4-1 in the last 5 weeks. Didn't start really hot. The only loss in the last 5 weeks is the Jacksonville by 3, a really tough and hard-fought game. Patrick Mahomes, in the last 5 games, here's his passing yards: 286, 257, 318, 270, and 224. I mean, that's just impressive, man. That shows that, hey, he deserves to be number one in the MVP race. He deserves to be number one in those discussions. And they deserve to be a team that should be talked about as a top 10 team, maybe top 5 team. Obviously, Danny went on TikTok today, and he had a hot take where he said they're the number one team in the league in his mind. And they very rightfully so, very rightfully so could be in some people's minds. They're a very impressive team. They're very well coached, very well on both sides. Spags is a great defensive coordinator. Andy Reid, been calling plays there for years. He's always been a well-respected, awesome future Hall of Fame head coach. And it showed the last 5 weeks. Like I said, 4-1 in the last 5 weeks. Starting 0-2, you really didn't see. You don't really. You don't really expect the Kansas City Chiefs, three-time Super Bowl champions in the last 5-6 years, to start 0-2. 2 strugglish losses, but they bounced back the last 5 weeks. 4-1 in the last 5 weeks. They just seem to be clicking on all cylinders. Nothing's messing up. Obviously, they had Rashee Rice back this week, and he didn't miss a beat. Obviously, coming off his suspension. 10 targets already from Patrick Mahomes, 7 receptions, 42 yards, and 2 touchdowns already for the young man. He just, it don't seem like them two have missed a beat at all. 15-4 seems like to be um, an eye popper of a duo right there. Obviously, he still has great players from all around him. Isaiah Pacheco, even Brashard Smith came in this week and just showed that he can do it in both phases, running and passing. 14 carries, 39 yards, 5 receptions for 42 yards. So 80 plus total yards for Brashard Smith. They got Isaiah Pacheco. They got Juju Smith-Schuster. They have Rashee Rice. They have Xavier Worthy. They have Travis Kelce. They have Noah Gray. They have targets all around on that team. They can just seem to, you have to game plan for every which way. And you also have the game plan for one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the NFL right now, and that's Patrick Mahomes. He seems to just know how to get it done in different aspects of the game, and he seems to, no matter how they start, even if it's 0-2, he can just seem to find a way to rally his team back, and he's done it in the last 5 weeks, 4-1. Shout out Andy Reid. Shout out Patrick Mahomes. Shout out the whole offense. Shout out the whole defense. Shout out Spags. Shout out the coaching staff. They've really, turned the tide on that on their season so far, and I can't wait to see what they do over the next few weeks. Obviously, the Chiefs, you can hate them or love them, but you're gonna watch them. That's what's always been said. Hate me or love me, but you watch me, and y'all sure do. I mean, everybody does. I mean, I even admit it myself. I love to watch the Chiefs, man. They're high powered, high octane offense with a smash mouth defense on the other side. It just seems to click on all cylinders for them. Their special team seems to be really good as well. So, keep an eye on the Chiefs. They're definitely going to be a team that's going to be in Super Bowl talks again. I don't know how much people like that. Obviously, you sometimes you say you get sick and tired of seeing the same teams over and over again in the Super Bowl, but you can't deny what Patrick Mahomes has done, what Andy Reid's done. They built a dynasty there. It's a organization that is used to winning. They're not used to losing, and those fans are used to winning. And beating down a AFC West rival in the Las Vegas Raiders 31-0 is just domination on all 3 phases of the game. To hold a team to 95 total yards of offense is even more impressive. While you're putting up 434 total yards, so shout out Patrick Mahomes, shout out Andy Reid, shout out that whole team. I don't doubt we'll be talking about them more and more over the next few weeks on this podcast. We seem to always find a way to talk about them because they're like I said, they're eye popping. They're an eye popper team. Your eyes pop to them. You're like, whoa, okay, Chiefs. They're starting to be the Chiefs again, and you got to just be expected. You got to be expected to be ready for Patrick Mahomes anytime. He can do it in regular season, but he can really do it in the playoffs. We've always said that. Me and Daniel have always said that. It just seems like in the playoffs he turns it on, but now he's turning it on in a regular season. So that's a scary sight. That division is going to be really fun to watch. I think the top 3 of them with the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. So keep an eye on that, and we'll definitely be discussing them more in the next few weeks. I don't doubt 100%. But again, Kansas City Chiefs dominant win. Shout out the whole Kansas City Chiefs fan base and team. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm telling you, y'all have an impressive team out there, and there's no denying that y'all have the recipe to win another Super Bowl. That's for sure. Up next for us is going to be the Giants and the Broncos. A big, high-powered 4 o'clock game this past week, and a little comeback game for Denver. High-scoring game, 65 total points. The Giants up 19-0 at the end of the 3rd quarter, and the Denver Broncos score 33 unanswered in the 4th quarter. 0 points through the first 3 quarters, but they score 33 in the 4th quarter alone to win. Outscore the Giants 33-13 in the 4th quarter, and ultimately win the game 33-32 on a Will Lutz game-winning field goal as time expired. Yeah, man, this is just two teams that really have a high-powered offense. Usually you see the Broncos have a well-respected defense, but it seems like Jackson Dart and Brian Dable had a game plan for them, and they executed it really well. It just fell short. The defense fell down, and the defense, as we say, the lights were too bright for them. for sure. But Jackson Dart shines again, 15 for 33, 283, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Cam Scattaboo, we're gonna talk about this kid all the time. We love Cam. Me and Danny, we always talk about him on the pod. We love Cam Scattaboo. 16 carries, 60 yards, 94 total yards. Um, but the tight ends really shine for New York this week. Obviously, Jackson Dart has really looked towards Theo Johnson the last few weeks. He looks to find his tight end, his short-handed guy, just check down kind of guy he can make sure can get the ball in his hands and get a few extra yards, but also a big body target. Obviously, with you losing Malik Neighbors, your wide receiver one, and the franchise wide receiver early in the year for the season, you got to find somebody you trust. I think he's found that guy in Theo Johnson. Obviously, again this week dominated again, 3 receptions, 66 yards and a touchdown. But he also found Daniel Bellinger. Got to shout out Daniel Bellinger, 3 receptions, 88 yards and a touchdown for him. Um, he definitely was somebody Dart. Um, he may be somebody Dart can look for in the next few weeks if he has 2 tight ends he can pass to that really can change the dynamic of the game, but also have Cam Scatterblue in the backfield. It's awesome. But Wandale Robinson, I talked about it a few weeks ago on the pod. I said Malik Neighbors out for the season. Your franchise guy's out for the year. Your number one wide receiver, your number one target, the guy everybody was looking forward to watching, Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors. Who can step up? Who can step up and take this team over in the wide receiver room? And I think it's definitely been Wandale Robinson. 6 receptions for 95 yards this past week, but he's doing it week after week. He seems to get better week after week. Definitely going to keep an eye on him. I definitely have to keep an eye on him. I picked him up in my fantasy league off the waiver wire, and he did pretty well for me this week. Had a few people on by, and I think I'm going to play him again. I'm trusting Jackson Dart to find him and the tight ends as well. But you know, Theo Wandale and Darren Bellinger with Scat, and even Tyrone Tracy got into the game and produced this week. We didn't get a lot of touches last week coming off an injury, but this week 9 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown for Tyrone Tracy. All in all, Brian Dable, shout out to you, my man. Not for the coaching in the fourth quarter, but your offense just seems to be clicking. You made the change, the quarterback Russell Wilson, the rookie Jackson Dart. And some people everybody in New York, I think, at least the majority of them wanted Jackson Dart. Your first round pick, this high powered, this guy that comes from Ole Miss, played under Lane Kiffin, high energetic guy. Both of them now high energetic with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterblue. You have 2 electric young rookies in the backfield and 2 guys that you can trust. It's awesome. You get a little scared sometimes with rookies. Sometimes you don't know what to expect from them. They're definitely, they're unproven. No doubt they're unproven. They're rookies. No matter what you've done in college and NFL is a different beast. It's a totally different landscape. Rules are different. The pace is different. Everything about coaching and play calling and schemes and everything from the top down is different from college football. There's no doubt about that. But these guys seem to have no gap in between the college level and the NFL level. Dart has dominated and got better week after week. He's bringing high energy to that offense, energy they haven't seen in years. Scatterboo backing him up at running back. He just seems to find hole, and he's not afraid to run through you. That's what you like. Obviously, some people say the guy has CTE, but the good kind, I guess. 16 carries, 60 yards, 94 total. He does it in both phases. Just give him the ball, let him go to work. He's not going to run around somebody. He's going to run through somebody. And that's the type of guy you want, a high energy guy that you can lean on when you need him. And Scatterboo is definitely that guy. But let's look at Denver Broncos. How about Sean Payton, man? Shout out Sean Payton. You're down 19-0 in the third quarter. They come into your house and they're dominating. They look good. This team that everybody was talking about firing their coach a few weeks ago and didn't know if they were going to win 4 or 5 games all year. Was in your house up 19-0 in the third quarter. Bo Nix can't seem to do nothing. So what are you going to do? You got to call on the guy to just be better. You got to call on the guy that you picked, the guy you say is your franchise guy, Bo Nix, and he stepped up 27 for 50, 279. 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 5 carries for 48 yards. All of his touchdowns in the fourth quarter, obviously. Everything, I have him on my fantasy team, and I took a nap on Sunday after the Panther game. And when I went to sleep, I checked my fantasy scores, and in the second quarter, he had 0 fantasy points. I wake up and he has like 44. So I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" And, you look back on the highlights, and it's just he found his wide receivers. He found his guys in Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. 6 receptions for 87 yards for Cortland Sutton and 6 for 85 for Mims. J.K. Dobbins, 14 carries, 81 yards. 407 total yards of offense for Denver. 227 of those in the fourth quarter alone. Just a great overall offensive performance from them. They seem to just they seem to be clicking on all cylinders in the fourth quarter. Obviously, last week, they struggled against the Jets overseas. We didn't really know what to expect. You see, as a Denver fan, obviously it's scary seeing you struggle against the Jets, and then you come out at home and for 3 straight quarters you score 0 points against the Giants, who we're talking about getting a number one draft pick maybe next year. Just a few weeks ago, but Sean Payton, Super Bowl winning coach, never count him out. Bo Nix, great young quarterback. Great young team there. They got a great defense. Stepped up in the fourth quarter, held the Giants to only 13 points, and it allowed Denver to score 33 in the fourth quarter alone. They just seemed to just move the ball with ease. Bo Nix seemed to just lead that team like the leader we know he is, and I'm very impressed with Denver, man. They're, like I said in the past segment with Kansas City, Denver, and the Chargers is going to be a three-way race in that AFC West that I'm very excited to watch. Three good teams, three high-powered teams, three teams that can really, three teams with good coaches. Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Sean Payton, three good coaches. It's a matchup you want to see. It's you like to see a three. You don't want to see one team just run away with unless it's Carolina Panthers obviously, but you don't want to see one team run away with a division title. The Chiefs have won it year after year. But it seems like there's three teams in that AFC West that I can say, okay, these guys can win the AFC West. Obviously, right now the Raiders are not in that race. Sorry, Raiders fans, if you're watching. Unfortunately, you have a lot to work on, and it needs to be worked on soon. Pete Carroll's not young, but he can also turn it around too. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's a very good coach, both college level and the NFL level. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks for the Raiders. But back to the Giants and Broncos. Denver, man, they impressed me. My mom is a big Denver fan. If she's watched, she'll probably watch this. So hey, mom, shout out to you. I woke up from my nap and she's like, Denver came back and won 33 points in the fourth quarter. I was like, wow, that's impressive. So I had to go back and watch the highlights. And Bo Nix really led that team. Bo Nix, he commanded that offense. For a sophomore quarterback, like I told Daniel, and he can attest for me. I said Bo Nix is probably one of the best quarterbacks out of that draft class last year. I think Denver got a steal in the mid first round. He's a great young quarterback. He looked good at Oregon. He looked good at Auburn. And I think it's translated well. Everybody had the age concerns coming in the NFL, but I think it was just experience. I don't think it was really age thing. I think it was experience. The guy could read defenses. He was very well respected by Dan Lanning. He was well respected in Auburn. He was just well respected across the whole college football landscape, and it shows now he's getting respected in the NFL. And when you go out and you get 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter alone, and you lead your team to 33 unanswered points at 15 minutes, you get your respect you want. You get the respect you deserve, and Bo Nix deserves his respect. He deserves his flowers. I'm excited to watch the Broncos over the next few weeks. But I'm also excited to watch the Giants. Two teams that I think are finally trying to find their identity. I think the Giants have finally found their identity in Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo. Hopefully Brian Dable can keep his job. I'd like to see what he can do over the next few weeks with those guys. But shout out Denver. Just played a better fourth quarter. Sean Payton now coached Brian Dable in that fourth quarter, and you hate to see guys like Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo, guys you like lose, but you also like to see guys like Denver and Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and J.K. Dobbins. You like to see those guys go off and win a game 2 at home in a high-powered fourth part game. So definitely gonna be talking about those two teams over the next few weeks. And great game. Loved watching it. Loved watching the highlights of it. And yeah, awesome game. On to our next subject. We're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins and their woes the first 7 weeks. Not a very good team right now. I'm not sure what they're hoping to do with Mike McDaniel. I don't know if he'll have a job over the next few weeks. Obviously, I thought there was a possibility maybe this week, or there may be a change in the coaching staff. Obviously, there wasn't. This is being recorded Wednesday, and this is middle of the week, so everybody's getting kind of prepared for the next game. So Mike McDaniel is still the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. That is subject to change over the next few weeks. I think we'll definitely um, you know, come back to this subject over the next few weeks and see what's going on. Obviously, like I said, I want to keep up the coaching carousel. The only opening job at the end of this year, right now, as of now, will be the Tennessee Titans, who fired Brian Callahan a few weeks ago. But going to Miami, um, do you think that Mike McDaniel is the future of your franchise? Do you think he's the future head coach to lead this team for the next 5-10 years? He's 500 over his first 4 years. This is about 3.5 years as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He's 29-29, 0-2 in the playoffs, both wild card losses. 9-8 his first year, 11-6 his second year. Both were playoff berths, both were wild card losses. Obviously, 8-9 last year, he missed the playoffs, and now he's 1-6 to start this year. Um, so he's regarded as an offensive guru. He obviously learned under Shanahan and that style of offense. But Tua Tagovailoa, your franchise guy, is just absolutely atrocious right now. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be hateful, but the stats don't lie. He's only passed for 1,313 passing yards this year. That's 22nd in the league. That's bottom half of the league. 11 touchdowns to 10 picks. He's first in the league in picks thrown. 6 interceptions in the last 2 weeks alone. It's pretty embarrassing, man. CBS was doing an update on the Browns and Dolphins game this past week, and him throwing a pick. And as they're doing the recap of his second pick, he threw his third pick during the recap of the second pick. So it was pretty embarrassing. I know the Dolphins fans are probably embarrassed. I feel bad for them. They obviously came into Carolina a few weeks ago. I was at that game, a good hard fought win for the Panthers. But is Mike McDaniel the guy you want to see over the next few years as your head coach? And I think most Miami fans right now, the majority of them, would say no. They would say, I wouldn't want to see that guy as my head coach. I wouldn't want to see the 26th ranked team in passing and the 29th ranked offense and run and the first ranked in turnovers. I don't want to see that guy lead my offense anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see that guy, run my team anymore. It just seems like he doesn't have the right answers either. You go to press conferences and you watch him. He just doesn't seem to have the right answers anymore. He kind of just beats around the block about stuff, and he tries to be funny, but it's really not funny when you're 1-6. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this subject. I'm very disappointed in Miami. You have Tua Tagovailoa, you had Tua early, you had Tyreek early in the year. Obviously, he got hurt. Prayers up to him still. But you have Jalen Waddle, you have Darren Waller who came back really good. You have Devon Achane in the backfield. You have Ollie Gordon who you drafted this year. You have very good defensive players. Minka Fitzpatrick's on that defense. Bradley Chubb's on that defense. Chalk Robinson's on that defense. You have high-powered players. You have players that are very well respected, very well known, but it just doesn't seem like you're getting the results you want. And I think it all falls back on the head coach. Only 1 year where he's had, 2 or more wins over 500, and that was 11-6, and he lost in the wild card. So, and that's with Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and guys that fully healthy. It just seems they can't get it. They can't seem to get it done when it matters the most. And now it seems like they're just digressing. 8-9 last year, missed the playoffs, 1-6 start this year. Don't seem like it's gonna get any better for them. So I don't see Mike McDaniel holding his job for much longer. I don't care what he does. He'd have to, probably win 6 in a row to even, 6 in a row just gets you 7-6. So I don't think they'll be doing that. Darren Waller just went on IR today. Jalen Waddle's kind of out there by himself, but he's been in trade talks. Tua might not even be the starting quarterback over the next few weeks. Quinn Ewers came in and looked pretty decent. So we'll see. I don't think Mike McDaniel holds his job much longer. And I think we'll definitely be talking about him in the coach. I'll definitely be talking about the Miami job in the coaching carousel over the next few weeks. So just keep an eye on the next episodes and the podcast. We'll probably update you on Twitter as well. We'll be here by Miami, and I think he has the hottest seat in the NFL, and we'll see if that seat catches on fire or not. Up next is the Thursday night football game between what we like to call the Unk Bowl, or the icy hot bowl, between Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers and Joe Flacco and the Cincinnati Bengals. a very high scoring game between the two. Cincinnati pulls out the 33-31 win on Thursday Night Football. Very high powered Thursday Night Football game, a very electric one that was very exciting to watch. Um, both quarterbacks balled out. Aaron Rodgers, 23 for 34, 249, 4 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks. That was only 2 turnovers of the whole game by either team. And then Joe Flacco, gave it right back to him, 31 for 47, 342, and 3 touchdowns and no picks. Um, you know, we call them, you can call them honk all you want, but those two were balling on Thursday night. It was fun to watch on Prime. Um, both put up big numbers. Both put up very impressive numbers. 7 touchdowns passing between the two of them. 2 picks by Aaron Rodgers was kind of the deciding factor of the game. But Aaron Rodgers just seems to find his guys every week. This week it was the story of the tight ends. Pat Freiermuth, 5 receptions, 111, 2 touchdowns. Jonnu Smith, who Arthur Smith brought with him this past offseason to join him. 3 receptions, 28 yards, and a touchdown. And then Darnell Washington as well had a touchdown. But the star of the game for Pittsburgh was Jalen Warren, man. You gave away, you didn't re-sign Najee Harris in the offseason. You kind of just trusted in Jalen Warren. You got Caleb Johnson in the draft. But Jalen Warren balled out this week, 16 carries, 127 yards on the ground, 158 total. Pittsburgh 4 yards shy of 400 yards total on offense. 2 turnovers, but they didn't give up any sacks. Shout out to the front O line for the Steelers. They looked really good this past week. They've really kept Aaron Rodgers upright. He's healthy. He seems to be back to his normal self, slinging the ball around accurately, except for the 2 picks. But 4 touchdowns, 249 yards, only 11 incompletions. And he seems to be finding his tight ends over the last few weeks. Jonnu Smith been getting some love. Pat Freiermuth's been getting love. Even Connor Hayward's been getting love, and then Darnell Washington as well. Darnell Washington's kind of like he should be a tackle. Let's be honest with everybody here. He's about 300 pounds. He should be a left tackle or a right tackle or even an interior guard. Maybe even learn how to snap the ball, my man. Shout out to getting a touchdown though. I got to give it to you. You did get a touchdown, but he only had like 1 yard total. Not very impressed with him. He just I don't know if he's really a tight end in this league. That tight end room's pretty stacked. Like I said, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, even Connor Hayward. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are balling on offense. I think their biggest problem and their biggest question is the defense. You got 3 good corners on that team. You got Jalen Ramsey, you got Joey Porter, and you got Darius Slay. You got three good cornerbacks. You got great edge rushers. T.J. Watt. You got T.J. Watt. You got Jack Sawyer. You got I don't remember his name from Charlotte. He's from Charlotte. Grew up a Panther fan, but they got Herbig over there. They got great edge rushers. They got great interior guys. They got great linebackers. They got a good team all around. They have a good team, but the defense is just struggling this year. And obviously it goes back to Mike Tomlin. He's a defensive guy. He was a defense coordinator for 1 year in Minnesota before he got hired as the Pittsburgh head coach. But the biggest question that I've heard from Steelers fans, I work with a bunch of them. My uncle's one. Is the defense. They're worried about the defense and they're worried about the head coach. They're worried about Mike Tomlin. You get winning records every year, but you're not doing anything in the playoffs. So, you want to take it to the next level, and they're not doing that right now. Definitely got to address that. But for Cincinnati, you're looking for a guy to just bring a spark to your team. You're looking for a guy who can bring a spark to your offense. Obviously Joe Burrow goes down. Jake Browning was not doing it at all. So you bring in a 41-year-old Joe Flacco, 31 for 47, 342, and 3 touchdowns. But the most impressive stat is 23 targets for Jamar Chase, 16 receptions for 161 and a touchdown. T. Higgins also had double-digit targets at 10, but he had 6 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. And then Noah Fant, talk about tight ends. Noah Fant got on the board, 4 receptions, 44 yards and a touchdown for him. But the running backs were really, really well on both sides. Like I said, Jalen Warren, 16 carries, 127 on the ground and 158 total. And then Chase Brown for the Bengals, he had a kind of a slow start to the season, but he picked it up this week. 11 carries for 108. Cincinnati, 470 total yards of offense. You look for a guy to spark your offense. Joe Flacco's done that. He finds his guys in number 1 and number 5. You find your 2 franchise wide receivers who you gave max contracts to. And I think good things happen. Chase Brown's a good running back to complement the backfield if the offensive line can keep it going. And the offensive line did well, better than they have done over the past few weeks. Obviously, Cincinnati's O-line was a big question for that whole fan base. Only 2 sacks were given up to Joe Flacco. No turnovers at all for that team. So very impressed, very impressed with Cincinnati this week. You were looking for a guy to bring you a spark, and he's definitely done it over the last 2 weeks. I don't doubt that Jamar Chase is going to be getting a lot of targets. T. Higgins is going to be getting a lot of targets. Chase Brown, they can get him going in the backfield. It opens up the pass game. It opens up Jamar Chase. It opens up T. Higgins. It opens up Noah Fant. It opens up those guys to kind of get the team on the right track. Cincinnati has the power on the horsepower and the high power on both sides to do great things. But obviously, you got to do it. You got to have a good quarterback to do it and complement you. Um, and I think Joe Flacco can be that guy. He's not a long-term guy. I think Joe Burrow might be back at the end of the year. So if he can just keep it up until then, until your real number one guy, Joe Burrow, gets back, you're not going to be mad at all for sure. Again, like we talked before, there was a lot of good. There's a lot of good divisions in the NFL, and I think that one's going to be a good one as well. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and even maybe the Cleveland Browns, they could sneak up in there. You never know. They dominated Miami this past week. Dylan Gabriel seems to be getting accustomed to that offense and that system. So it could be another three-way race in that division, the AFC North. It's definitely something we're going to keep an eye on. But shout out to both Unks. Good job, both Unks. 2 thumbs up for Unks. The Icy Bowl, Icy Hot Bowl. I know it was smelling like icy hot all up in that stadium last week. But shout out to both of them. Over almost 600 yards total between both of them, 7 touchdowns on Thursday Night Football. We love to see primetime games be primetime game like, and Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati definitely was this past Thursday. So definitely going to keep an eye on that race in the AFC North. It's going to be an interesting one, especially with Joe Flacco kind of seeming to get accustomed to the offense. He's still learning, I think. He talked about that. He's still learning a little bit. So if he's put up 470 yards total offense and he's still learning, I can only imagine what it's going to be like when he learns it fully. He's going to have time. He's going to have time to do that. But definitely going to keep an eye on both those teams over the next few weeks, and leading into December and crunch time, and seeing what that AFC North race looks like. Now down to our final topic of the night. Give me a little water. All right. Our last topic of the night, obviously, the reason everybody's here, hopefully. I don't care. Hey, I don't care if you're here just for the Panthers. We welcome all 32 NFL team fans. We're trying to grow this thing, me and Danny. Obviously, Daniel's not here. He'll be back next week. But, I'm rocking out, doing it alone. And I'm loving it, man. I love talking ball. I love talking football. I love talking the Carolina Panthers. New jacket also. My mom's probably watching still. I hope she is. Maybe not. She don't like watching the whole thing because it's kind of long sometimes. But that's neither here nor there. But shout out to Mom for the new jacket. It's very comfy, very nice. So I thought I'd don it on the podcast this week, week 7, episode 7. And let's get into it, man. Carolina versus New York. A little defensive battle. Carolina win 3 in a row for the boys. 13-6 win in New Jersey this past Sunday. Obviously Bryce Young hurt. They said he wants to get out there Sunday against the Bills. We'll see. I'm kind of on the side of don't rush him back in. I know it's an ankle injury. It's not a quad injury or arm or anything, but still, I don't want something that can linger over the next few weeks. We obviously want to see our franchise guy be in the game and kind of just lead the offense. He seems to be finding his footing like he did the last 7 weeks of last year. Before his ankle injury, avoiding the sack, he was 15 for 25, 138, and a touchdown to Xavier Legette. Andy Dalton did come in the backup, and he threw 4 for 7 for 60 yards, including ice in his veins dagger to XL on third down, under 2 minutes to go, to not give the New York Jets the ball back. And speaking of XL, shout out to XL, man. I'm so proud of him. Obviously, a lot of fans, even myself. You can go back to the former podcast episodes. I called him out. He probably didn't hear it. only got 30 something views, but like I said, we're trying to grow this thing. But I called him out, man, and just like every other fan did and every reporter. Um, and I don't doubt the coach staff did the same thing. Is how are you gonna redeem yourself? You've started slow. You're in year two, and this is a loaded wide receiver room. You got Tedero McMillan, you got Jalen Coker. Hunter Renfro's balling out early in the year. Obviously, he's not in there anymore. Jimmy Horn's in here. JT Sanders, Tommy Tremble. It's a very crowded room coming pass catchers. And we challenge him. What can you do, Xavier? People. You even had commentators on Fox calling him out. Um, you know, on the CBS, calling him out mid game. For not doing anything, just being lazy. And he's definitely stepped up. 9 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown for him this week. That's very impressed with him, man. Very very happy for him. That's almost a first down every catch. Um, it is a first down every catch, average wise. But so proud of Xavier, man. He balled out. Um, 9 receptions, 92 yards and touchdown, and a dagger, a little fade down the sideline for 30 something yards. Um, so happy for him, man. Like even Dave Canales um, talked about him in the post game speech in the locker room. He's really challenged himself. The coach staff challenged him, and he stepped up to the plate, and he's balling, man. I just want to keep. I want that to keep going for him. When you have guys like Xavier Legette, Tedero McMillan, Jimmy Horn, Jalen Coker, who didn't get to really do much this past week, had a limited amount of time on offense, about 30% of the offensive snaps he played, no receptions, but Jalen Coker's going to get back to Jalen Coker, no doubt. I don't doubt that 1%. I don't doubt that for 1 second. I mean, Jalen Coker's a baller, and I don't doubt he'll be getting back to his normal self very soon. But the biggest question for everybody was the running back situation. What were they going to do? Rico, 2 amazing weeks in a row. Record-breaking weeks. You have your franchise guy or the franchise running back last year, and Chuba Hubbard coming back this week from injury. And they both split reps. They split series most of the time. Sometimes they throw a guy in there on third down or whatever. But Rico, 17 carries, 79 yards on the ground. He didn't miss a beat, I don't think. 96 yards total. Chuba only had 55 total yards. He had 14 carries for 31 yards and 24 receiving yards. Um, so I think they'll keep it going with the kind of like the switching the series thing. I don't really like it that much. I'd rather see us find a guy for a certain package. What do you like this guy to do over this guy? What do you like for Chuba to do that Rico doesn't do? What do you like Rico to do that Chuba doesn't do? And kind of figure out what fits them. Don't do it on an every series type thing. And no matter what, I'm gonna play this guy on this series. No matter what, I'm gonna play this guy on this series. Just find ways you can both get them involved. This week especially, Buffalo Bills. They're 31st in run defense. You possibly won't have your franchise guy in Bryce Young playing quarterback. No offense to Andy Dalton, I think he can very well get it done. He's a veteran guy in that team. I don't know how he can come in and sling the ball around. He did it last year when need be. But if you can have two backs who are 1,000 yard rusher last year and also did pretty well this week, between both of them, over 150 total yards on offense. So figure out what you can do with both of them. They accounted for half of our total yards last week, 302 total yards. They accounted for half of that just themselves. So figure out how you can get both of them involved in the game plan where they can run the ball, and then it opens up the pass game. You can find Tedero McMillan, you can find XL, you can find Jalen Coker. You can find those guys downfield. But also we got to improve in the red zone and third down. 1 for 3 in the red zone this week, not going to cut it. And then 5 for 17 on third down, that's not going to cut it either. You only put up 13 points against the Jets, who have a really bad defense. Steve Wilkes obviously is that defensive coordinator, but not a good defense. Definitely got to figure out ways that we can, attack those guys, attack defenses like that. Obviously we're winning games we should win, but you got a tough schedule. We're one of the strength schedule wise. We have one of the hardest top 5 schedules the rest of the way. So definitely got to figure out a way to attack defenses better week in and week out. I think Dave Canales definitely would do that. But speaking of our defense, got to give a shout out to our defense. Justin Fields only 6 for 12 for 46 yards. He was benched at halftime for Tyrod Taylor, who probably very well might be the starting quarterback this week and in the future. He did come in and he 10 for 22, 126, but he did throw 2 picks. Both picks to Mr. Seatbelt himself, number 8 ball, J.C. Horn, looking like an all-pro corner. Like we've been saying, a healthy J.C. Horn is an all-pro corner, and he showed it this week. 2 picks, one-handed one in the end zone, and then he just ran the route for Reynolds down the sidelines on a fade route and just picked it off. But shout out to both cornerbacks this week. Mike Jackson got back to him to himself like he did earlier in the year. Only 2 receptions allowed, only 14 yards allowed by him. Um, J.C. Horn 2 picks. Seemed to just be locking down everybody all game. He's starting the league in picks now. 3 picks. He had one against Jacksonville early in the year. But shout out to our defense as a whole. Shout out to Derek Brown clogging up the middle. 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 3 passes defended, and 7 tackles for loss. 7 total tackles. 7 total tackles. 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 3 passes defended, and 7 total tackles for him. As a defense's total, 6 total sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 11 quarterback hits. And that's what makes a team only allow 6 points. Is you do the things that you should do very well. You got to get pass rush. Your pass rush has to get to the quarterback. That's been a struggle for us. We were lower in the league in sacks coming in this game. Picked up 6. That was more than we had all year combined. We only had 5 going into the game. So 6 total sacks for us. Very impressed with the defense this week. Got to keep it up this week. Josh Allen coming into town. With James Cook in the backfield. 2 very good players. They're not really high powered on the outside, the wide receiver. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Definitely got to trust JC and Mike Jack to clamp those guys up and play defense well on the outside. Would love to see a pick or 2 on Josh Allen, but you got to get pressure on Josh Allen. He can do it both through the air and with his legs, and he also has a very good top 5 running back in the league right now, and James Cook in the backfield. So we got to get pressure on the quarterback. Got to stop the run, make him one-dimensional. I think we do better right now on the run. So if we can stop the pass game, like I said, Mike Jackson, J.C. Horn, Shaw Smith Wade, Trevon Moehrig, Lathan Ransom or Nick Scott. We got to, the secondary's got to slow down the pass game. Shut those guys out. Shut Keon Coleman out. Shut Dalton Kincaid out. Shut Khalil Shakir out. Shut those guys out. Make them one-dimensional, and then let your rush defense, who's really had success over the past few weeks, let them step up and stop James Cook. And then on offense, if it is, Bryce may go. They said they're going to up his workload in practice for the next few days and see how he can go. He wants to play on Sunday. We'll see. I don't know if that's just a game plan kind of thing. Like, okay, you're gonna have to scheme for both our quarterbacks, but either way, if it's Andy or as Bryce, I think we got to run the ball. Run the ball. Like I said, 31st run defense. The Bills are. So pound the rock with Rico and Chuba. Let those guys go to work. Chuba, obviously, they said was just getting back in the game form. He was out for a few weeks, so we'll see. Game 2 back on the field. Rico's hot and he's ready to go. So give it to both of them. Let them go to work, and then it opens up the pass game. Play action off that. XL, Tedero McMillan. You got your tight ends. Mitchell Evans looks good. Tommy Trimble looks good. JT Sanders is back again. So overall, like I said, definitely got to improve in the red zone. 1 for 3 this week, and then definitely got to improve on 3rd down, 5 for 17. Don't give the Bills too many opportunities. They're in your house. It's going to be a packed game. Their fans are going to travel well. The Bills Mafia is going to be there, but also the Panther fans are going to be there as well. Keep pounding is going to be roaring over the whole stadium. It's going to be a very electric game. Probably the biggest game in Charlotte in the last few years, and I can't wait to be there and cheer on the guys and just see how it goes. Got a tough next few weeks, but I think we're built for it. And it's really going to test who we are as a team. Everybody doubts us still because of the teams we beat, but if we go out here and we beat the Bills and we make a statement, then they can't say nothing about us. And the Panthers are back to being the Panthers again, and that's what we want to see. So thank y'all for tuning in. This is a shorter one. We'll have Daniel back next week, but appreciate everybody showing up. Hope you got what you wanted. Hope everybody loved what the content. Everybody loves the content's being shown the past few weeks and for weeks to come. Keep in touch with us on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube, and check out all our content. We keep this page updated, and we come here every week on YouTube, and we do a podcast every week. So Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next Monday. Thank y'all.